welcome. My name is Elkin Montoya. I'm the treasurer of this new created club that we gave him a name of Rotary Club of World Disability Advocates meeting. We want to welcome everyone. Thank you. Whoever is brand new, we'd like to just let us know on the chart. We're going to be using a lot of the chart conversation. That way, make sure that you put your microphone on mute. If you want us, I'd like to see the pictures if you want to, if you feel comfortable. But we're going to do a lot of the conversation or questions and answer on by chart. And I'd like to welcome our president of our club, Mr. Ken Masson. Welcome, Mr. Ken Masson.
Thank you, Alkin. Alkin is the treasurer of the organization, so I thank you for that. Now, I wanted to start this meeting with a video. If I don't mess it up like I always do. And I want to, let's see if I can get Grace. Grace, I'm going to say your name. Grace Tingwa. She's also known as More Grace. So we're going to start the movie with
transmitter and receiver are paired as
with this video from her. Once I get it going right.
Out of the box. The transmitter and receiver need to be repaired.
We've got a nice ad going on here. Okay, here we go. Everybody see it? And hear it?
Yes, Ken.
Broken down. Jesus. Wow. Jeez.
So one of the,
Okay, class.
Can we
Ah.
I
put-
would like to do
Excuse
problem
me, can
3
we
on
put
the board.
everybody on mute, please, except Ken?
Don't be mean.
Great going, Grace.
video, because now we're watching
Let's give
something
someone
else.
else to try, Ralphie.
Well,
Ouch.
you better
Okay.
remind Pete, you might remind Peter never to be rude about Mike Walwyn's driving. Again, I'm afraid.
So, one of the,
Well, only if he knows. Only if he knows. I'm not going to tell him if you don't tell him.
Okay, just real quick, just to let you know that YouTube's come up with a new tool, I think it's new, that translates singing or speaking into all the different languages. So the default is Russian, but once I figure out how to get it into some other language, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Grace about that, see if we can do that. So, but one of the pleasures I have of meeting so many people, and as I have all over the world on this project, is you run into people like Grace with the talent that she has, and it's just a pleasure to have her as a club member. So,
Hello. I came from Bangladesh. My name is Fahim. Some technical problem. Our country weather is bad. So apology for everything. Thank you very much. I came associated with TRDD.
all right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. The first speaker we have for today's meeting is going to talk about advocacy. Luis Mauch is from Brazil. It's a pleasure to have him here. If anybody saw the post that I sent out, Luis is, let him tell you a little bit about it, but tomorrow he's involved in the Paralympics. He's going to do the signing and the caption translation tomorrow. So to have him here with us today, and he's such a busy guy right at the moment, he's working with Claro in Brazil to do that. So, Luis, I'm going to turn this over to you, and thank you very much for coming.
Okay, Ken. Thank you very much. Thank you all. I'm going to describe myself. I am Luis Mauch. I am a almost bald guy with some little hair up to I use barb. I am a white guy. And I'm using a blue shirt, and my background is white. So, Jeremy, I know you are blind. My mom used to say that I'm a beautiful and handsome guy, but I'm not sure about that, okay? So it's my pleasure to be here today talking with you guys and trying to share a little bit about our experience in advocacy. So in 2005, I am one of the co-founders of Mais Diferenças, in Portuguese, More Differences. It's a NGO, non-government organization, and we run projects with government here in Brazil, and we had a project also in Mozambique in education fields, and also help some government in Panama, Costa Rica, and Chile to create their own public policies. I'm going to share my screen and try to give you a little bit a timeline in what we did here in Brazil during these last 15 years and what is happening right now in Brazil, because this is really important also to tell you a little bit about that. So let me share my screen. Please tell me if you can see it. Okay. So Mais Diferenças, we are not for profitable, and we are a Brazilian organization, and we produce and share some experience and knowledge regarding inclusive and cultural education, focusing on accessibility and rights of persons with disability, and also autonomy and equal opportunities as well. Some of our achievements, so we have like extensive experience in inclusive education and policies advisor in different areas of the government, like local governments and municipalities, state government, and also the federal government. We are more focused in education and cultural inclusive, and also in advocacy. But during this time, our numbers are really good numbers, but you need to understand that Brazil, we are like a more than 200 million country citizens. So we are really focused in how to support and give not only the law and create advocacy, but also give some practices in how we can achieve accessibility and inclusion. Talking about some advancements here in Brazil during the last years, and this was the most thing that important thing that I want to say, that this achievement was part of like a whole strong participation of the activism and community with some kind of disability during these years, these long years. But our first thing is that Brazil is one of the assignments of the UN CRPD. Sorry, I'm not sure. We have like a constitutional status because our Congress, they say they had like this process. And we also had like a national legislation. We have a lot of good legislations here in Brazil, but one that I'm gonna bring here is about the special education national policy for inclusive education. Brazil is one of the countries in the world that probably are most advanced in implementation of law and legislation regarding inclusive education. And we also had the Brazilian law of inclusion that was like a process that first, after that, like the UN CRPD convention, it's like we have our own law based on CRPD convention. So it's really important, this legislation in Brazil. And once again, I say that it was only possible because right now we have the whole civil society looking for inclusion, looking for accessibility as well. And for us, it's really different. Accessibility is one path, it's one way to achieve inclusion, but inclusion is the most important thing, and we are really focused on that everybody can live together, everybody can keep together, yeah? But at the same time, this is really something important. It's because we are always setting back, go forward and setting back, go forward and setting back. The civil society, they cannot like blink. Otherwise, the government took some rights or changed some laws. And we are right now, especially in this moment through this government, you know, probably everybody in the world knows that our president is terrible. It's much worse than Trump, I think. But it's terrible, our president, and he's taking a lot of rights of persons with disability. So just to have an idea what is happening just right now, we have like I'm not going to say a reduction, but all the policies, all the actions that the federal government was running and the municipalities, they were almost took it out. So they starting to invest a lot in training, in a lot of materials, in accessibility, in resources room, but right now they are taking out these things. And they are also taking out the special social participation spaces, like some councils, our federal councils, all that stuff that was built in the last 20 years. And specifically in education, right now, they are creating, the federal government, a new law that they don't talk more about inclusive education, but right now they're trying to set back to a special model of education. And this week, especially this week, today and 2 days, we have like a public participation in our Supreme Court. Mais Diferenças is one of the organizations that will participate in these public speeches. More than 15 organizations will speak. It's one of the biggest social participation in the Brazilian Supreme Court. And after that, next year, the Supreme Court will judge the constitutionality of these new federal policies. And last week, we had a tremendous absurd that happened, that our Ministry of Education says that children with disability at schools, they are not good to be there because they can, how can I say that? They can mess with all the children, with all students. And after that, when he was trying to justify this terrible speech, he says that we have 1.3 million students with some kind of disability in Brazilian schools. but 12% of these children are impossible, and that's the right word, are impossible to live with. So our Ministry of Education says that 12% of children with disability at schools are impossible to live with. So this is terrible. And why I'm saying all that? Because Brazil has one of the most advanced legislation. We are starting inclusion, it takes time. We are talking about a long-term participation, and it takes time. And this is something really important because the whole Brazilian society started to say, no, you cannot say that. It's impossible to say that. Impossible is having a ministry like you. So probably we believe that the right thing to do is that this ministry should be fired, but we don't believe that it's going to happen. But in the end, we create advocacy, we create public policies, and we create like federal achievements or any kind of government with the pressure of the civil society. Otherwise, we don't have a public policy. We have just a government policy or individuals' policies. So talking about our group, I believe that one of the most important things that we need to do is, for sure, we need to pressure and create advocacy from the government. But what we most need to do is to create a strong community, because in the end, the politicians, they are looking for their votes, and they don't want to do something that the whole community doesn't approve. So this is one of the most important things that I believe that we can do. Talking about that, some of these achievements we did here in Brazil, we used to do some marches that we call like superação movement, like superation and like rise up movement, something in trying to translate like that. And we used to go to Paulista Avenue, that is the most famous avenue in Brazil, and also to Copacabana in Rio de Janeiro and other states. And we put all persons with disability at streets. We do like a party, like a parade, and we have like musicians with disability talking about that. We have all that stuff. And this is not only the responsible, but it is part of the civil society mobilization to achieve our rights, to achieve persons with disability rights. And this is really important because in the end, people say, look, there are 5,000 people at streets talking about what they really want, what they really need. And one of the most important things, I believe that is the most important thing, is bring the participation of the disability community to our fight, to fight for their rights, but everybody together, yeah? And in this case, we did some campaigns, for example, to have the CRPD ONU ratification in Brazil. We create and we participate with a campaign that was a signing inclusion campaign that we bring together a lot of organizations here in Brazil. We work a lot with different networks in different groups. And each time our organization puts some focus in each initiative and what is the most important thing that is happening right now. In our focus is main based in cultural and education, because we believe that this is the base to construct the whole inclusion. We also participate in some federal councils, helping and create the policies, for example, for books and reading. Also some social participation in different networks. We also participate at the, like ombudsman at the public defensory. I'm not sure if that's the really name, but it's one of the organizations that give free access for justice. And we work really close to create this Brazilian law, also the National Plan of Education. We work really close, and what we do sometimes, we create the practices, and through these practices, we can create a law. One example that I can give you is the accessibility audiovisual policy here in Brazil in cinemas and movies. We did the first all-inclusive session in a commercial cinema in 2014 here in Brazil, bringing technology. That's one part that I worked to. After that, we started to create some pressure with the community of of blinds and also hard of hearing and deaf persons to bring the accessibility to the movie theaters. What we really achieved that Brazil was one of the, and we participate in a council that the Brazilian Chamber of Cinema create. So we create and support the creation of this legislation. But we did this like showing the practices. And we say, we have technology, we can do that. With these things, we started to talk with the major studios like Disney, Paramount, Universal, and the major cinema chains like Cinemark that I have in the US and other chains. And then Brazil created a legislation that obliged the cinemas that they need to be accessible, need to have some equipment that could transmit and distribute audio description, sign language, and caption. Brazil was the first country to propose to use sign language at this kind of content. But what happened is that we started this in 2014, and each year the president say, okay, you can postpone 1 year more. We can postpone 1 year. We can postpone more. So in the end, it's like a chain. It's like a process that we need to always be focused. In our expertise, we need to create a practice. We need to show that it's possible. After that, we need to mobilize all the citizens with some kind of disability or not. And after that, we need to pay attention a lot during this process. Because sometimes we believe that, okay, now we are going to, but it doesn't happen. Because some guy that sometimes has like the golden pen that can say, okay, let's go further or let's go setback. So that's why it's really, really important, our action through our communities. So we can bring them strength to fight for their rights, and then we can guarantee accessibility and inclusion. Otherwise, things go like a stock options graphic, up and down, up and down, up and down. So here I have some materials and my contact as well. And I'm gonna talk just a little bit about what Ken mentioned. Tomorrow we have the open ceremony of the Paralympic Games. So we create a partnership here in Brazil. I had another company based in technology. We have a solution called BPlay. So we're gonna be the only one here in Brazil to transmit the audio description and the sign language through our application. And everybody can watch it from the television, from the cable television. It's not gonna be in the open television, but in the cable. And then they can receive in real time audio description and sign language. Doing this, what we believe that in the future, we are getting closer for the big channels, and then we can bring more accessibility because we have a legislation that oblige that you can have audio description and captioning, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So what we are trying to do, and just to have an idea, we are paying all the costs from our own investment to create this case that will show through the like big chains like Global and big companies like Claro is the biggest company in telephone company here in America, that is possible to have accessibility. So sometimes the importance is we need to have practice, we need to have pressure and keep this in attention. That's something that I would like to share with you guys. If you want to have any question, I'm really open. I beg your pardon to speak a little bit fast, but I know that we have a short time, and I am really involved in rushing now this event tomorrow. But I'm really open. You can call me, you can give me an email, and I'm really involved in how we can create this important global network to fight for accessibility and inclusion. Thank you. And if I can just 1 minute, I just remember, I have a short video. It's in Portuguese. I will try to put this. I'm not sure my computer will permit, but we have a senator that is tetraplegic. And you can just hear she's saying that. I want to talk about the extremely lack of respect and knowledge and humanity of the Ministry of Education. So we are glad to have a senator that is tetraplegic, and it really works a lot for the implementation of legislation. But you can hear her voice. She's almost crying, and she's really upset with all this situation. Thank you.
Okay. Luis, I think it's important to remember that we're living this week in Brazil. We have the National Week for the person with disabilities.
Actually, it's September. It will start some kind of disability in August, and September is the 21 September is the national date of all disabilities.
But we have now the National Week. It's national and state week also. We are dealing with the National Week for persons with disabilities.
Does anybody have any questions for Louis?
I do, Louis. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
So, Louis, back in the founding of your organization 16 years ago, how important as a first step was building awareness about your organization?
Actually, Steve, when we started, we didn't have a legislation. You know, for example, we used to work with inclusive education, and we didn't have even the UN CRPD. So we believe that we need to show that it's possible. Sometimes you need to find one guy that can hear you, or one municipality, or someone that really can hear you, and put effort and put investment. Because without money, without investment, we cannot do things. We can do with volunteers, we can do with different resources. It's really important. But in the end, it takes time, it takes dedication, and it takes investment as well. So we always are looking for the first one, you know? So I think, okay, let's try to find the first big company that want to implement that. Let's try to find the first organization. Let's try to find the first public sector or education system that want to do that. After that, we can create a case, a practice, and then saying for the other ones, okay, it's possible. We are already done. So I think that is one of the most important things to create awareness. And awareness is endless. It's endless. We are always needing to create awareness.
So today, 16 years later, so you're continuing with awareness, but are there other tools you're using, like social media, advertising, anything like that?
Steve, actually, our organization is not a good marketing organization. You know, we have a lack of these things, actually. But talking about Brazil, we have some campaigns, we have some other organization using social media. Right now, 15 years later, because of the really empowerment of the disability community, we had a lot of how can I say this in English? Sometimes I get some words, but we have a lot of persons that are really important at the social media, and they have disability. They are like influencers, so they can use their own history to talk about capacities and enabling and all these things also.
So they're helping to spread the word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Moat, out of that 1.3 million people, can you determine what is the voting power that they have?
Voting power, sorry, Elkin, I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Voting for elected
the voting,
officials.
Okay. Actually, 1.3 is just students at public school. We have 45 million people with disability regarding the last census here in Brazil. Sometimes, and it's around 25% of persons. So right now, they're saying that it's not that much because the census could have some problem, but okay, we can have at least 10 or 15% of the population. So we have millions of votes. And after that, we have the family, we have the friend, and we have the whole community.
So why, as your agency kind of embrace some sort of the parents and the family to basically vote for those individuals that in favor or making this policy changes at that level that will make a statement in a more general at the assembly line. So to me, is assembly line meaning the politics. I just wanted to make sure that it seemed like there's a need there, but the politicians don't feel there's a value for it.
Yeah, we actually don't act in this field especially, but this is really important. What we do, we work with families, we work with the community, trying to give them and trying them to understand their rights. And if they understand their rights and what they can do, we believe that we can empower them, and then they can realize and make their own choices regarding politicians and all that stuff. So we don't act directly in elections or in who they are going to choose, but we try to empower them and give them the feeling, understanding about their rights. They have rights.
Okay, thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken, I have a question for Louis.
I really appreciate. Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Louis, for your presentation. I'm Maureen from Uganda. I would like to know whether in your country you have politicians that represent people with disability. For us in our country, we call them member of parliament. If you have them, can you like engage them to impeach the senator who like talked like that, or to persuade other politicians so that they can impeach the senator? Because really what she said was really not good. Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing. It wasn't that woman. It was our Ministry of Education. That woman is a senator, and she's a tetraplegic, wheelchair user, tetraplegic. So we have some, and she was a great case because she's starting to be in the Secretariat of São Paulo. São Paulo created the first Secretariat for Disability and Inclusion. And after that, she created her own public and politician career. She was like a council at the city. And after that, she was like a deputy. And in the last election, she was like Senate. It was the first woman with disability in the Senate. So we have some representatives. This is something important as well, is to create some representatives in the politicians with some kind of disability in the different areas of the government and the public and democracy participation.
Stephen, do you have a question?
Yes, but I think Louis has already answered it, because I was wondering, like, is she the only? There are other abilities, but I think he has already touched on that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Did you hear enough of that, Louis, to answer?
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stephen, you're breaking up, so it's hard for us to hear. You can always, Louis, before you leave, you can just put your contact information. People can ask you questions that way.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming. Louis and I, and I've been talking about the possibility of continuing this discussion in a webinar in the next coming months, and get advocates from different countries together in the webinar to address this whole issue of advocacy and advocates working to make change in their countries, particularly when there are laws that are there on the books but are not being implemented. I think that's really important. Actually, Steve, wait, hold on. Betty, you got a question before Louis goes?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the presentation. But I wanted to learn from the presenter and maybe other members as well. on how the Disability Act is working in your countries, because I know, like in my country, Malawi, we have a Disability Act, which is there to protect the plight and rights of people with disabilities. But it's just a document that is beautiful and rosy in the shelf. But then, looking at what is happening on the ground, there is no one who has been taken to task if the rights of people with disabilities are violated, or if they're not accorded the basic things they need in their everyday living. So I just want to learn from other countries. How do we enforce the enactment of the disability laws and acts, if you have any in your countries? Thank you.
I'm not sure if I understand it. It's a question. I understand what she was thinking, but I'm not sure if she really did a question.
Yeah, it's a question. I want to know, if anything, what do you do in your countries in order to enforce the implementation of the acts and laws that protect the rights of people with disabilities?
Okay, thank you. So we do a lot of things, yeah. We participate some networks with different kind of organization. We try to create that. Actually, the law is part. So we need to, in my vision, we need to have the practice. We need to create a law, but we need to have the enforcement. So here in Brazil, we have the public ministry that is really actuating, and we have the instance of fiscalization as well. So one really important thing that happened here in Brazil is it's like a law that obliges big companies to hire persons with disability. Companies that have more than 100 employees, they are obliged to hire someone with disability. It happens 20 years ago, and right now, person they get job, they get money, and they are seen by the society because. People starting to have some colleagues, working partners that have some kind of disability, and starting to learn about that, and starting to learn how we can live together, and how important and how powerful this is. So if we had a law, but we don't have fiscalization or enforcement, and even some taxes that someone need to pay if they not reach their goals, or if they're not oblige the law, if not they are compliance with the law, it's gonna be just like you say, like a beautiful letter with beautiful words, and nothing is gonna happen. In the end, what I really believe that people have the strength to make things happen. We are the only one that have this strength. And we have two things. We have our vote, we have our participation in society, and we also have our money. So we can look what kind of company we're gonna buy, what kind of company we're gonna spend our money, if this company is accessible, if this company is inclusive, if this company respect their employees and their clients, you know? I think in the end, that's what we have.
Hi, Luis. I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
My name is Johirul Islam. I came from Bangladesh. I have a question. Do you have any accurate or database of persons with disabilities in your country? You share 1.3 million, but it's I think so. Bangladesh have no accurate database in our country. So 10 to 15% World Health Organization share his percentage about disabilities. But I am thinking about this percentage about or since do you have any database or government? Please tell me about this database.
Okay. Actually, information and database, it's a huge gap when we're talking about persons with disabilities. So here in Brazil, we have our census that it was supposed to happen last year, but it didn't happen, and we don't have any idea when it's going to happen again. So the last time was 2010. And in our census, we have some information about the disability community, like age, like what kind of disability they have, the regions they live, the access of economics, and we have some information of that, about that. And we also have like a policy that for those who doesn't have any money, they can receive a minimum salary, a minimum money from the government. So we have some information, but we don't have like a national database that wants to understand all their needs. For example, if someone will born in a hospital and has some disability, and after that he gonna have access for the service, like social service, and after that he's gonna go to the school and understand at school that this school will receive these children with disability, and after that he's going for their life, you know. So the data is really spread with different areas, sometimes in different cities. In Brazil, it's a huge country and sometimes decentralized. So sometimes we have the federal policy, and it's in the charge of each city to implement that. And sometimes they can do in a different ways. But we don't have like a national, really good database with all this information. We have some informations.
Yes, thank you. I think so. It's the people with disabilities in the world first needs. It is my personal experience. So it's a needs of accurate database on our human needs, like empowerment, job, education, skills, and health condition. Now you can share a hospital or house. Why our disabilities are increased day by day? It's I think so. It's a definition of a UNCRPD 2008, 2006, but no essential or increasing or government initiative on accurate database on every country. It's a needs, worldwide needs. I think so. It's a personal experience on my life. Last 9 to 8 years to work with disabilities of disabilities of human rights, because it's important for our country, and obviously it's a world needs. So I think so. I can and Ralph, this is a major and main purpose of our Rotary. This need identify of our country needs create a database on human with living people with living disabilities, and the health, education, empowerment, and skills, because we also suffering for unskilled our empowerment in future, because it's now time to our online education, online platform. It's like a Zoom and other social media, digital marketing, it's etc. Our future is inclusive for of our online education system or online skill empowerment program. So we will ensure our accessibility with about online. So it's tied to our initiative on our online platform. It's a big achievement of our mobility reduce from our country. It's a worldwide problem, reduce our mobility, because it's a main and major problem to movement of our physical or other disabilities in every country. So needs it's a world needs on accurate database on specific department to then we will work a specific department to education, health, and other departments. It's my opinion to share with all participants to think. It's a food for of thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Jahiro. Steve, do you have another question?
Oh, I just wanted to go back to a question that Stephen was asking, and we couldn't make out what he was saying because of the audio breakup. And just a suggestion, if you'd like to type it into the chat room, and then Luis and the rest of us would be able to see it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. So Louis, once again, if you could just, I don't know if you did or not, put your contact information in the chat so people before you leave can connect with you. And you and I and several other people that will be working on that webinar and we want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow.
Hey.
I'm going to try to see it down here in Columbia. Yeah, thank you. We were going to have, go ahead, Louis.
I put my contact, my name, my email. I'm going to put right now the website from Mais Diferenças, the website from my other technology company.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And other websites as well from our initiative. You can find me at the email and my mobile. And thank you.
Thank you. You have to be super busy, so giving us this time has been a blessing. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Ken, can I make a quick comment on a question, an earlier question that Luis was asked, which was about what happens when the country puts some law in place, but how do you get it to actually move forward? In the United States, the first piece of legislation that we had to protect people from discrimination was Section 504 of the Rehab Act of 1973. That took 4 years for the disability community to actually get anybody to start making any implementations of what Section 504 required, which was that anybody receiving federal money needed to be accessible. And so to send kids to school, it took 4 years for us to get school systems to start moving forward. And what that took was a group of people with disabilities having a sit-in in a federal building in California that lasted over 30 days. And one high point there is that when they turned off the power and the communication with the building to try to get the people with disabilities out, the people who were deaf, who knew sign language, went to the windows and signed to people out in the community what they needed so that they could still get things to those folks. So they turned their strength into a way to communicate when the government tried to turn off communication. So that's what it takes is people with disabilities taking control and showing that their disabilities are strengths to get the community to move forward.
Very good. Thank you, Jeremy.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. That's it. I think that's it. Sometimes you need to.
Okay. Take care, Louis.
So I need to leave, guys. I would stay the whole day here with you talking, but I really need to leave to prepare all things tomorrow. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity again, and I'm really open to discuss with you all.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Louis. I think Ralph was going to do a presentation on grants and all that, but I think what we'll do, Ralph, is a different kind of format for that. We're going to record you and send it out to everybody. Okay, they won't be able to ask you questions, but they can send them to you. Okay, Ralph?
That sounds fine, but I'd like to say one thing about grants and about my role as I'm in my later 70s now, and I've watched education go like swings on a playground. They swing one way and they swing back. And I think we're on a positive swing now. And following what Jeremy just stated, we're building a group here. We're building a group of Rotarians that have connections all around the world. And if our swing is on the negative side in one country, it will be in the positive side in another country. And if we keep sharing, if I go to a meeting and say, wait a minute, in Bangladesh, this is going on, and they've solved the problem this way, or in Nepal, they solved the problem that way, or in Kenya, they've solved the problem this way, then we have a real good issue to work on. And that's part of what my grant discussion is all about, and how we as a club can not only get money through Rotary, but money through other Rotarians who are involved with very high valued companies. And they will join in. If you watch TV this month, there have been a lot of commercials involving people with disabilities, and it's been super. So yeah, we're on to good stuff. We'll send the stuff on how to do grants, and we can interject that anywhere. Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Thank you, Ralph. It's an important discussion, and maybe we'll invite him back to the next meeting to talk a little more about it, to answer some questions on it, because we all need to understand that a little more so we can understand how we can apply for grants to some of the projects that we're thinking on. And and just a little bit about the club, what we're doing right now in different areas. We have a number of groups in different countries doing many different things. And we've been having discussions going on during the month of things going on in many groups. And not only with pride of Lewis, with he working with the Paralympics, but we have, I don't know if Stephen's still here, he is. Stephen's been working for a Bill of Rights for people with disabilities in Kenya. And he's going to be, at some point, we'll share more information with everybody on that as far as what that Bill of Rights is and what it's going to do and what happens with it. Stephen will keep us updated on that. And Pavel in Nepal, he's created an app to help people with disabilities with emergency situations, so they can get in touch with the emergency needs that they need quickly. He just broke that app a couple of days ago, and at some point he'll be sharing with us more information on that. In Uganda, we have a team of people who are blind that are playing football there, and we also have a team in India that's doing that. We're going to kind of do some work to see if we can promote that and coordinate that. In Kenya, Oscar is not here, I don't think, but Oscar is from a Rotary in Kenya, and he is working on helping a family with the cerebral palsy, 3 members of the family with cerebral palsy, and we're working with him on that to try to help him as far as getting money to build a house for that family. As we're working with him, in other words, we're trying to coordinate him with other places that will help him out on that. I want to commend Ralph for the newsletter and Steve for the newsletter that they've been putting out on this. A gentleman, Peter, in Ontario, who is working on a web page for us. We're working on we're in the early stages of that, developing that for us. Going back to Kenya, they've done great things in Kenya as far as moving forward with NGOs and nonprofits. And they just recently had a meeting with the chairman of the National Disability, Stephen, I got the help in that National Disability for people with disabilities, National Committee for People with Disabilities. He's a high-level government official. It's critical as like Louis was just talking about, working with the government officials and so forth to advocate change. He is very open to working with us, so we look forward to doing many things with him. I've been working with Grace. We're putting together a group of people who have disabilities to create some music and promote that music for people with disabilities there. We're working with a group in India to put together an organization, put together a group for blind chefs to promote the blind chefs. We want to show inclusion of people with disabilities, featuring their abilities, not their disabilities. I think in Brazil, I don't know if Eduardo, you're here. You've located a group in Brazil, a club that was dedicated to people with disabilities, and he's going to be featuring them in one of his upcoming meetings. And we're working with Uganda. One of the things in Uganda and other countries is mental health is not getting the respect that it is getting. So we're working with a couple of groups in Uganda to try to help the people with mental health who are normally would be put into institutions in places like that. We've set up a group for athletes with disabilities, and we're going to be promoting that and working to promote athletes with a disability, once again, for featuring their abilities, not their disabilities, and inclusion and all that. We're looking at the possibility of running something in Rotary. They have an organization called a project called RILA, which helps educate particularly young people and leadership skills. We want to do something like that for people with disabilities around the world, working on a workshop for people with disabilities, young people, to teach them and improve their leadership skills. I'm going to create a Friends of Rotary group so that the people that are not members of the group can still get in touch and involved in what we're doing. As we just talked about, we want to do an advocacy webinar coming up to encourage people to do advocacy. In Brazil and in India, they are creating teaching devices for people with disabilities, students with disabilities. So we're looking at see if we can promote that. And one thing in India, they're working on with blind masseuses, which I thought was a great idea. The problem is with the COVID situation, that kind of cut that business back down, but we're taking a look at that. We're also advocating other Rotary groups to get involved with disabilities, and we created a certificate of appreciation, and we're going to go to any Rotary that's to get involved with people with disabilities, and show our appreciation to the fact of what they're doing. And you know, in India in particular, one of the top Rotarians, I'm not sure he's here right now, he's not, is going to be speaking to the Indian group. He's done many projects in India. We need to educate ourselves more on how to actually do a project to do it successful, because that's our goal in all the countries, to do different projects. So we need to work on that. And anybody have any comments on anything at this point?
Yes, Ken, I'd like to say something. We're all Rotarians here, and we have the strength of Rotary throughout the entire world. We're the only club in the entire world, I think, that's really doing this with our specific focus. It's I'd like to applaud Nepal right now. What Palaf has done is he is now linked up with 7 or 8 other Rotary clubs in Nepal. If each of us from our own respective countries link to the Rotary clubs, our neighboring Rotary clubs or other clubs in our own country, we can really get them on board with what we're doing. We can get that motion and really expand our strength. So we're doing good stuff. We can help that pendulum swing as positively as we possibly can make it, but only as we get other business people, Rotarians, and the general public on board. We're a community service group, and we can do things, do examples right in our community, and then tell the next community what it is we do. And we can share this worldwide. So yeah, we're on the right track, and I'm thrilled so many are here. This is great fun.
Thank you, Ralph. And I want to be respectful of the time, because I want to try to keep these meetings to an hour. We have a committee and we have a club. The committee will meet on September 7th again. Our next club meeting will be on September 20th. We're trying to do these meetings, club meetings, every 3 weeks, third week in the month. And if comments over to our club advisor, Diana, close out the meeting.
Okay, can you say the time of the meeting, please?
At this point, I'm planning on the same time, but I'll let you know if that changes.
Okay. Wow. It's amazing of what you've achieved in only 2 months and 6 days. Your club was chartered on June 17th. So you're still a baby, and you've worked so hard and you've achieved so much. Thank you all for coming today. And we have Rotarians and non-Rotarians on the call. And I am thrilled to see such a big group, and to hear about all the projects that you've been working and you're planning on work. Chartering a new club is exciting and challenging, but the key to success is building a strong, engaged membership that's dedicated to the idea of service. And you've accomplished so much. You chartered, when you chartered, you had 20 active members from 8 countries. 18 of those members are first-time Rotarians, and they needed time to understand what Rotary is and to gain knowledge. Choosing officers, explaining what their tasks are, dealing with the admin part, finances, bank account, bylaws, creating and raise awareness of who you are, your public image, your newsletter, your website. You needed time and efforts to create the structure and to make it work. See how far you've gone, how many projects you're working on. I am so proud and I am so thrilled. And honestly, I don't regret a single minute that we put into chartering this club. And we did it in no time. And obviously, there was a good reason for that. But you must not rush. Be quick without hurrying. Be in a haste, don't be in a hurry. You've achieved so much in a short time. I feel your impatience. I feel your drive, your passion to do more and more. To achieve good results, you have to plan, organize, and then execute. And then we all want those good results, right? So take your time and plan accordingly. And we will succeed one project at a time. Louis said it, educate people, teach them about their rights. Education is the essence of life, but it is a long process. And at the end, it is very rewarding. We all know that patience is a virtue. Patience is not the ability to wait, but how you act while you're waiting. Our projects do not bring instant gratification. Again, it is a process. We are building something bigger that will last a long time, that will change our lives for better, our kids' lives, our future generations for better. And within this process, we are learning from each other about other countries. We are brainstorming ideas. We're sharing good and bad practices. We are helping each other. This is a huge opportunity, and we must grab it so we can change lives. We can raise awareness. We can create this global network for accessibility and inclusion. Grand appreciation for all you do. With enormous gratitude to all your hard work and passion in advocating for disabled people in and outside of Rotary. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Really appreciate. We are what we are with the caring and the guidance of Diana. So we appreciate much for what she's done for us. So thank you. She's always there whenever we need her. So thank you.
Thank
All right. So unless there's any other comments, I'm going to close the meeting, and we'll meet again in a month from now, or not exactly a month, but a month. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be in touch.